My fiancée mocked my late mother's ring at our engagement party, so I left the venue silently, and her entire family regretted it within weeks. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and I truly believed I'd found the woman of my dreams. Her name is Elise, the kind of woman who made every room quieter just by walking in. We met through mutual friends at a small dinner party 2 years ago, both of us laughing at the same sarcastic joke that nobody else found funny. It felt easy, natural, like we were two puzzle pieces that had been waiting for each other. She was ambitious, confident, and deeply empathetic, or so I thought. She worked in marketing, always talking about her dreams of building something meaningful. I loved that fire in her, the way she spoke with her hands and how she'd touch my arm when she laughed. We started dating soon after, bonding over late-night takeout, long walks, and endless conversations about what kind of people we wanted to be. I came from humble beginnings. My mom raised me mostly on her own, after my dad passed when I was 12. She used to tell me, "Never marry for appearance or money, son. Marry a woman who respects where you came from." Those words stayed with me. When I met Elise, I truly thought she embodied that. She didn't care that I wasn't rich, that my apartment was small, or that I drove a second-hand car. At least, that's what I believed. The first time I took her to my place, she smiled at the family photos on my shelf. One of my late mother, one of me at graduation. "She looks so proud," Elise had said softly, tracing her finger along the frame. That moment made me think she understood me, that she saw me. I didn't realize that what I saw as depth, she saw as sentimentality. And one day, that very sentiment would become the reason everything shattered. When my mom passed away, the only thing I couldn't let go of was her ring, a small emerald set in a delicate gold band. It wasn't flashy or expensive, but it carried her warmth, her sacrifices, and every ounce of love she ever gave me. I kept it locked away for years, promising myself I'd only use it when I found someone who truly understood what love meant. When I decided to propose to Elise, that promise echoed in my head. I spent the night before polishing the ring, whispering, "I hope you'd approve." "Mom?" I imagined Elise's face lighting up, her hand trembling as she saw it, not because of the jewel, but because she'd feel what it meant. We were at the park where we first said, "I love you." The sun was setting, the air smelled like fresh rain, and she was wearing that cream-colored dress she knew I adored. When I got down on one knee, she gasped, covering her mouth. "Oh my God," she whispered, eyes wide, tears glimmering. I told her it belonged to my mother, that it symbolized everything she taught me about love and loyalty. She hugged me tight and said, "I'll treasure it forever." For a moment, I believed her completely. I felt my mother smiling somewhere, proud that I'd found someone kind enough to carry her legacy forward. But later that night, when Elise posted the engagement photo online, her caption caught my eye. He proposed. Not my dream ring, but my dream man. I laughed it off at first, thinking she was joking, but something about that sentence felt off. The words, "not my dream ring," lingered, like a whisper I couldn't unhear. I told myself I was overthinking. I didn't realize that one small caption would be the first warning sign of the storm that was coming. At first, I convinced myself Elise's post was harmless, just her being playful online. But a week later, she started dropping comments that cut a little deeper. "Maybe we can redesign the ring one day," she said while scrolling through Pinterest. Make it more modern. I remember freezing. "Redesign?" I asked. "You mean change my mom's ring?" She looked up, realizing I had taken it seriously. "Babe, it's just a thought. Don't be so sensitive. It's still your mom's ring. Upgraded." Those words, "don't be so sensitive," hit harder than I expected. My mother's hands had worn that ring through every hardship, every sacrifice. The idea of upgrading it felt like tearing pages out of her story. But Elise laughed it off, saying, "You're too sentimental for your own good." Soon, the remarks became frequent. She'd compare it to her friends' engagement rings, flashy diamonds worth thousands. "It's just, people might think we couldn't afford something nicer," she'd murmur, pretending to be concerned for my reputation. Her tone was soft, but every sentence left a bruise. I started to feel embarrassed, not about the ring, but about how deeply it meant something to me. I hated that she made me question that. One evening, my best friend Jake noticed my silence and asked, "Everything good with Elise?" I told him about the ring, about how she joked it wasn't her style. He frowned. Man, if she doesn't respect the story behind it, she won't respect much else. I brushed him off, forcing a laugh. I didn't want to believe him, but deep down, something cold began to settle inside. Me, the quiet feeling that my mother's ring had become a burden in Elise's eyes instead of a blessing. And I had no idea that her next joke would be in front of everyone I knew. Elise's family insisted on throwing us an engagement party, something elegant. Not over the top, her mother had said with a smile that reeked of subtle superiority. The venue was one of those boutique hotels with marble floors and chandeliers shaped like falling glass. Elise looked stunning in a navy gown, every inch of her radiating confidence. I tried to match the mood, shaking hands, smiling, pretending I belonged in that world of money and pretense. At first, it felt almost magical. People toasted to us, music played softly, and Elise clung to my arm like we were a perfect couple. But the undercurrent was there, faint yet undeniable. Her relatives whispered behind their champagne glasses, their eyes darting to me. I overheard one woman say, "He seems sweet." But humble beginnings don't mix well with high expectations. I laughed it off, pretending not to care. Elise noticed my discomfort and whispered, "Ignore them, they don't mean anything." I wanted to believe her, but minutes later, she was laughing along with those same people, effortlessly sliding into their rhythm. As the evening went on, the conversation turned to the engagement itself. Elise's cousin, a smug guy in a tailored suit, asked to see the ring. "It's vintage," he said, forcing a smile. Another voice chimed in, "So you're not doing the diamond thing?" Elise hesitated for a second, just long enough for me to notice. Then she said, "Yeah, we wanted something simple, meaningful." Her tone was polite, but detached, as if she were explaining a compromise she hadn't chosen. I felt a twinge in my chest. That ring, my mother's ring, had turned into a symbol of quiet shame in that glittering room, and I didn't know it yet. But before the night ended, that shame would be broadcast for everyone to hear. The night was almost over when Elise's father raised his glass for a toast. He spoke about love, family, and new beginnings, while people smiled politely. I tried to focus on his words, pretending not to notice how out of place I felt among these polished, judgmental faces. Then, out of nowhere, Elise's cousin, the same one who had mocked the ring earlier, shouted, "Let's hope she upgrades that ring before the wedding, huh?" Laughter erupted. A few guests tried to stifle it, but most didn't bother. The sound hit me like a slap. My heart pounded as I turned to Elise, expecting her to shut it down, to say something. But instead, she laughed, not a nervous giggle, not a polite smile, a full, gleeful laugh that carried across the room. She raised her hand, showing off the ring, and said, "Yeah, it's more sentimental than stylish." The room roared again. I froze. The world felt muffled, the laughter echoing like a cruel loop in my head. My chest tightened, and my throat went dry. I stared at the ring, my mother's ring, glinting under the chandelier's light, now a prop in their little joke. Someone behind me whispered, "Poor guy." And that's when it hit me. They weren't laughing with us. They were laughing at me, Elise, I said quietly, forcing a smile. "Can I talk to you for a sec?" She waved me off, still smiling for photos. "Relax, babe, they're just teasing." Teasing, that's what she called it, the public mocking of something sacred. I felt my hands tremble, the weight of every suppressed humiliation pressing against my chest. So, while the crowd laughed and cameras flashed, I did the only thing that made sense. I slipped the ring off her finger slowly, silently, and put it in my pocket. Her laughter faltered, confusion flashing in her eyes, and without another word, I turned and walked out. The second I walked out of that hall, the laughter still echoing behind me, everything went eerily quiet. I didn't run or shout, I just walked. My shoes clicked against the marble floor, each step steady, deliberate. My chest burned, but my face stayed calm. I could feel eyes on me, confusion, whispers, the weight of judgment. I didn't care anymore. The air outside was cold, sharp, and honest. It felt better than the fake warmth of that ballroom. Elise called after me once. "What are you doing? Come back." Her voice was shrill, laced with embarrassment rather than remorse. I didn't answer. I slipped my car key into the ignition, hands trembling, but not from sadness, from clarity. As I drove, the headlights cut through the fog like truth slicing through denial. My mind replayed every moment: her laughter, the ring glinting in her hand, the way everyone looked at me as if I were beneath them. I realized this wasn't just about the ring. It was about everything my mother taught me about dignity, respect, and knowing when to walk away. My phone buzzed non-stop. Elise, her father, even mutual friends. I ignored them all. That silence, the one I gave them, felt powerful, because for the first time, I wasn't explaining myself. I wasn't begging to be understood. I parked near the lake where I used to go with my mom as a kid. I sat there in the car, staring at the water's reflection, clutching the ring in my palm. I whispered, "I kept my promise, Mom. I didn't let anyone disgrace you." Somewhere deep inside, I knew this wasn't the end. This was the turning point. And Elise, she had no idea what silence could destroy by morning. My phone looked like a war zone: 30 missed calls, a flood of texts, and group messages filled with what happened. And bro, are you okay? But I didn't respond to anyone. Not Elise, not her family, not even my friends. I just shut everything off. Silence became my shield. For 2 whole days, I disappeared. I didn't go to work, didn't check social media. I stayed in my apartment, sitting by the window with the ring in my hand. I thought about my mom, about how she always said, "You teach people how to treat you by what you allow." And for too long, I'd been allowing Elise to rewrite my story, to twist love into something that looked good in photos but felt hollow in real life. Eventually, news spread. Elise's posts about private matters only fueled curiosity. People speculated, whispered, assumed. I stayed quiet, and that silence spoke louder than any defense. It started eating away at her image, the perfect, composed fiancée who suddenly had no fiancé. Her father called, voice dripping with control. "Be a man and fix this. You embarrassed our family." I laughed, actually laughed, and hung up. That moment felt like breathing for the first time in months. I went to the park where I'd proposed, the same bench where I'd believed in her. I sat there as the sun dipped below the horizon, the sky painted gold like my mother's ring. I whispered, "You were right, Mom. Respect isn't something you can buy." And just as I felt peace returning, my phone buzzed again, but this time, it wasn't Elise. It was a message from her cousin. "Dude, you might want to check what she's posting now." When I opened my phone, my heart sank. Elise had posted a long clarification on Instagram, a paragraph dripping with fake vulnerability. "Sometimes emotions get the best of us," she wrote. "We all make mistakes, but no one deserves public humiliation." And then, beneath it, a carefully chosen photo from the party, her looking heartbroken. Surrounded by sympathetic comments, the story she was spinning, that I had overreacted, embarrassed her, and stormed off because I was insecure. I didn't comment. I didn't correct her. I didn't say a single word. But other people did. Someone replied, "You mocked his mom's ring, though." Another added, "Respect isn't a prop for Instagram likes." Within hours, her post became a debate. Half her followers defended her. The other half called her cruel. And just like that, the image she'd spent years curating began to crumble. Brands quietly removed their tags from her page. Friends stopped commenting. Even her own cousin, the one who'd started the joke, sent me a private message. "Didn't know it meant that much, man. I'm sorry." I didn't respond. But I could see Elise unraveling online, posting cryptic quotes about losing people who didn't deserve you and letting go of toxicity. The irony burned. She wanted control of the narrative, but silence was louder. One night, as I walked past the same hotel where it all happened, I saw her face on a billboard ad for a local brand, one that had just dropped her. The ad had been replaced. Her name was gone. I should have felt vindicated, but instead, I felt empty. Because deep down, I realized it wasn't revenge I wanted, it was respect. Still, karma had a way of working quietly, and soon it would knock right on her door. It was almost 2 weeks after the party when I heard the knock on my door. It was late, close to midnight, and when I opened it, Elise was standing there, her makeup smudged, eyes red, clutching the ring box in trembling hands. For a second, she looked nothing like the composed, confident woman I'd fallen in love with. She looked desperate. "I messed up," she said immediately. "Please, can we talk?" Her voice cracked, the kind of tone that used to make me want to protect her. But this time, I just stood there, silent. She went on, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was nervous. Everyone was watching, and I cut her off. You mocked my mother's ring. You mocked her memory." She shook her head violently. "No, I was just trying to fit in, to make everyone laugh." I didn't realize how it came across. I stared at her, wondering how someone so smart could miss something so sacred. "You didn't just make a joke, Elise. You turned love into a prop." Her breathing hitched. "Please, I'll fix it. I'll apologize to everyone. Just don't walk away from us." For a moment, I wanted to believe her. But then I remembered the laughter, the look of superiority on her face as she raised that ring to a crowd who didn't care. That wasn't nervousness, it was vanity. I took the ring box from her hands and said quietly, "This was never about us. This was about you needing to look perfect, even if it meant breaking something pure." Her tears fell harder. "So that's it?" I nodded. "That's it." And when I closed the door, the silence that followed felt like the only kind of closure I'd ever get. 2 days later, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. When I picked up, a deep, measured voice said, "This is Mr. Caldwell, Elise's father." He sounded calm, but beneath the calm was something else. Fear. "Son, I think we should talk. Privately." We met at a cafe downtown. He arrived in a gray suit, the kind that screamed control and money. He didn't even sit before saying, "You embarrassed my daughter." I leaned back, expression steady. "She embarrassed herself," I replied. For a moment, his jaw clenched, but then his eyes softened, tired. "Look," he sighed, "this whole thing has gotten messy. Elise's reputation is in trouble. She's losing clients, friends, and good," I interrupted, my voice sharper than I intended. "Maybe that'll teach her what respect costs." He exhaled through his nose. "We didn't raise her to be cruel. She's been under pressure." And I cut him off again. "With all due respect, sir, I don't think you raised her at all. You just polished her." That made him go quiet. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The hum of the cafe filled the space where apologies should have been. Finally, he said, "She misses you." I met his gaze. "She misses control. There's a difference." He nodded slowly, as if realizing the truth for the first time. "You're not the first man she's hurt with her pride," he muttered, mostly to himself. When he left, I sat there for a while, staring at the untouched coffee. Elise's downfall wasn't my doing. It was the mirror she'd forced herself to face. And, for the first time, her family couldn't hide it behind money or excuses. They finally understood what I meant that night when I said, it was never about money. It was about respect. A week later, I finally opened the small wooden box where I'd kept my mother's ring. It still glimmered softly, untouched by the chaos it had caused. I ran my thumb along the gold band, tracing the tiny scratches she'd left behind from years of wearing it. For the first time in weeks, I didn't see pain. I saw her strength. I took it to a quiet little jeweler downtown, a place my mom used to visit. The owner, an elderly man with kind eyes, smiled when he saw it. "This one's got history," he said. I nodded. "I just want to restore it. Not change it. Make it shine again." He understood immediately. When I picked it up a few days later, it looked exactly the same. No diamonds, no redesign, no trend. Just real. Pure gold, steady and unpretentious, like the woman who once wore it. That night, I lit a candle beside my mother's photo and placed the ring next to it. "It's safe now," I whispered. "I almost lost sight of what you taught me." The flame flickered, and I felt this strange calm like she was there, reminding me that pain can cleanse. Too, for the first time since the engagement, I slept soundly. No bitterness, no regret, just quiet gratitude that I walked away when I did. The next morning, I posted a simple photo of the restored ring on a wooden table with one caption. Some things don't need upgrading, just respect. It didn't need context. It didn't need names. And yet, that post said everything I'd ever wanted to say. Months passed, and life began to settle into something peaceful. I focused on work, reconnected with old friends, and even started volunteering at a youth center my mom once donated to. There was no bitterness left, just a quiet kind of strength that came from surviving humiliation without letting it define me. One afternoon, as I sat in that same park where I'd proposed, my phone buzzed with a message from Jake. "You've seen this?" It was a link to an engagement announcement, Elise, same bright smile, same dramatic caption, only this time a massive diamond glittered on her hand. I stared at the photo for a long moment. She looked happy. Maybe she was. But the eyes, they didn't carry peace. They carried performance. I didn't feel anger, just relief. Relief that I no longer had to chase love in rooms that mocked where I came from. Relief that my silence had become my loudest lesson. That evening I drove to the cemetery and stood by my mother's grave. The air was cool, and the scent of jasmine lingered from the nearby trees. I placed her ring box beside her headstone, kneeling down as I whispered, "You were right, Mom. Respect isn't about words, it's about what we protect when no one else will." I stayed there until the sun set, watching light fade into dusk. There was no dramatic ending, no grand revenge, just peace, the kind my mother always wanted for me. As I walked back to my car, I looked up at the sky and smiled. Some endings don't need an audience. Some victories are meant to be quiet. And the people who mocked my silence, they'll never understand how loud peace can be.